Welcome to Logai Global Stories Africa, where we bring history's most remarkable leaders and peacemakers to life through powerful, carefully researched stories that inspire and educate. It was Monday morning, March 18, 2013, in Kigali, Rwanda's capital. Outside the United States Embassy, one of the most heavily guarded compounds, a man walked calmly toward the gate. This man was not running. He was not hiding. He was not surrounded by bodyguards. He was alone in a broad daylight. He walked up to the guards and asked to be let in. That man was Bosco Ntaganda. For years, he had been known by a single nickname, the Terminator. At that point, Bosco Ntaganda had been wanted by the International Criminal Court for 7 years. There had been an active arrest warrant accusing him of 18 counts of war crimes against humanity. But he was not there to ask for asylum. Neither was he there to negotiate for protection. No, Bosco Ntaganda told the guards that he wanted to be transferred to the Hague. And that was the part that made no sense. Until very recently, Bosco Ntaganda had been living openly and comfortably. He had been a general in the Congolese army, protected by the state. And yet, without a shot fired, one of Africa's most feared warlords simply walked in and surrendered. So why would a man like that choose a guaranteed conviction and decades in prison? This is the Bosco Ntaganda story, the Congolese Terminator. Bosco Ntaganda's story did not begin on a battlefield. Instead, it began in a Rwanda already shaped by violence. Ntaganda was born on November 5, 1973, in Kinigi, a quiet town in the foothills of Rwanda's Virunga Mountains. The area was better known for mountain gorillas than for producing one of Central Africa's most feared warlords. Now, as a teenager, his family, part of the Gogwe subgroup of the Tutsi community, moved east into Congo. In Congo, they settled in Gungu in Masasi territory, North Kivu. The region was already shaped by land disputes, ethnic tension, and cross-border violence. Anyways, Ntaganda attended secondary school there, but he did not finish. At just 17 years old, he left his studies and traveled to Uganda. And here in Uganda, the Rwandan Patriotic Front was training young fighters. For a Tutsi teenager who had already seen his community targeted, joining the Rwandan Patriotic Front offered modern safety. For Ntaganda, it provided structure, belongings, and a sense of purpose. During this period, the young man adapted quickly and became battle-hardened. Ntaganda fought with RPF throughout Rwanda's civil war. He would later take part in the campaign that overthrew the government in July of 1994, effectively ending the Rwandan genocide. But this violence did not stop at Rwanda's borders. As instability spread into eastern Congo, Ntaganda became part of a new Makia conflict. This conflict was defined by many shifting loyalties. And so, over the years that followed, Ntaganda would move between rebel groups and national armies, serving both Rwandan and Congolese interests. Sometimes he served both at the same time. It is believed that sometime after 1994, Ntaganda acquired Congolese citizenship. This then allowed him to operate permanently inside Congo while maintaining strong ties to Rwanda. During the First Congo War of 1996 to 1997, Ntaganda fought with Laurent Kabila's AFDL. Remember, this was a Rwandan-backed collusion that marched across Zaire and overthrew President Mobutu Sese Seko. You see, during this time, his official radio call sign was Tango Romeo. But on the ground, he became known as the Terminator. This nickname reflected his reputation as a disciplined yet ruthless commander. He was feared for his efficiency and willingness to use extreme violence. Now, when relations between Kabila and Rwanda collapsed, Ntaganda switched sides without hesitation. In 1998, he joined the next Rwandan-supported rebellion, the RCD. Ntaganda rose rapidly in the RDC and became the bodyguard of its president, Ernest Wamba Dia Wamba, the academic turned rebel leader. Now, when Wamba later broke with Rwanda to form the Ugandan-backed RCD-ML, Ntaganda followed him to his base in Kasangani. For Bosco Ntaganda, that path eventually led him to Ituri, a remote, rich mineral district. In Ituri, he would rise within the local forces and became involved in the events that later drew the attention of International Criminal Court. So, by earlier 2000s, Bosco had set his sight on Ituri, a land rich in resources and danger alike. In Ituri, he rose to become the chief of military operations for the FPLC. The FPLC was an armed wing of the UPC, which controlled large parts of the mineral-rich Ituri. During this time, Bosco served under Thomas Lubanga, the leader of the UPC. As chief of operations, he oversaw military campaigns and maintained discipline within the movement. It was also during this time that some of the most serious crimes associated with Bosco were committed. For example, under his command, the FPLC carried out widespread abuses. They forcibly recruited child soldiers, committed rape and torture, and systematically killed civilians. Now, many of these attacks were carried out along ethnic lines, targeting entire communities based on who they were. For instance, one of the deadliest episodes came in November 2002. Ntaganda led FPLC operation in and around the gold mining town of Mwangbalu. After his forces had taken control of the mines, civilian belongings to Lendu were hunted down. At least 800 people were killed. A survivor later told Human Rights Watch that if you were Lendu, then you will be exterminated. Adding to this notoriety, FPLC units under Ntaganda's authority also attacked United Nations peacekeepers. Eventually, these acts drew international attention to the escalating violence in Ituri. By 2006, the International Criminal Court had issued an arrest warrant against Bosco Ntaganda. A redacted version of the indictment made public later added charges of murder. Now, as the UPC began to collapse in late 2005, Bosco Ntaganda fled Ituri and crossed into Rwanda. From there, he eventually returned to Eastern Congo and reconnected with another powerful figure, Laurent Nkunda. Laurent Nkunda led the CNDP and was one of the most influential warlords in the region. Like Ntaganda, he had started his military career with the Rwandan rebel force that ended the genocide. Years later, former CNDP officers later alleged that the Rwandan military official helped facilitate Bosco Ntaganda's return to Eastern Congo. These officers also claimed that it was Rwanda that connected Bosco Ntaganda to Laurent Nkunda's rebel movement. Bosco Ntaganda was eventually appointed chief of staff of the CNDP. He then set up his base in Kibati, about 20 kilometers south of Laurent Nkunda's headquarters. It is worth noting that from the very beginning, the relationship between these two men, Nkunda and Ntaganda, was tense. Nkunda had a strong military reputation. He commanded respect from the ranks and field fighters, especially those from the Gogwe community. Meanwhile, Nkunda remained the political figurehead, and that imbalance quickly created friction. Arguments soon followed, particularly over finance and control of resources under Laurent Nkunda's authority. By 2008, the situation had escalated enough that Rwanda reportedly had to step in to prevent a full-blown split. Meanwhile, new allegations against the Terminator kept surfacing. For example, he was linked to the killing of civilians and other serious abuses. On April 28, 2008, the International Criminal Court unsealed his 2006 arrest warrant, calling again for Ntaganda's immediate capture. However, on the ground, it made little differences. In the following months, Ntaganda is said to have personally commanded operations that led to major atrocities. The most notorious took place in Kawanja on November 4th and 5th of 2008. Here, an estimated 150 people were killed just outside the United Nations compound. Still, within weeks, Ntaganda was holding quiet talks with Rwandan security officials discussing plans to remove Laurent Nkunda. In January 2009, Rwandan authorities arrested Laurent Nkunda in Kigali. Days later, Bosco Ntaganda was formally named the commander of the CNDP at a ceremony at the Ihusi Hotel in Goma, Eastern Congo. Now, with Nkunda out of the way, Bosco Ntaganda consolidated control. Under a peace deal with the Congolese government, his CNDP was integrated into the national army. Ntaganda himself was promoted to general, even though the ICC still had an active arrest warrants for him. Officially, he became the deputy commander of the military operation in the Kifus. He returned direct control over many former CNDP units. A United Nations official report remarked that Ntaganda was never as powerful as he was during this period. At the same time, the Congolese government defended the arrangement. They argued that his loyalty was the only thing keeping thousands of ex-CNDP fighters from returning to war. So from 2009 to 2012, Bosco Ntaganda emerged as one of the most powerful army commanders in the Eastern Congo. Based in Goma, he exercised influence over tens of thousands of soldiers. Many of these former CNDP fighters whose loyalty lay with Ntaganda personally than with the Congolese state. At the same time, state protection gave Ntaganda cover to expand what he always been his real source of power, a criminal business empire. A United Nations investigation later revealed a sprawling network across North and South Kivu. Here, the Terminator's forces collected illegal taxes from mines, charcoal markets, and checkpoints along smuggling routes into Rwanda and Uganda. While gold was the main prize, coltan was also central. Ntaganda soldiers controlled extraction sites, transport routes, as well as border crossings. Anyone moving valuable goods had to pay. It was a private tax system enforced with guns. A 2011 United Nations report estimated that Ntaganda's earnings were around $15,000 a week. It is also said that Ntaganda's owned a flour factory, a hotel, a bar, and a cattle ranch outside Goma. As you can imagine, this money ensured his troops were paid better than the official army, thus cementing loyalty to him and not the Congolese state. The money also funded a lifestyle that openly flaunted the international arrest warrant. The general moved freely. He was untouchable. But even power is a shadow. The alliance that kept him safe were starting to crack. By 2012, the fragile political balance that had allowed Bosco Ntaganda to operate with relative impunity in eastern Congo was beginning to shift. International pressure, long muted, was growing harder to ignore. For example, a key moment came in March 2012 when Thomas Lubanga, Ntaganda's former commander, was convicted by the ICC. The verdict in Lubanga's case underscored the reach of international justice and also prompted prosecutors to expand the charges against Ntaganda later that year. All of this raised the political costs of shielding the Terminator. And also, domestically, Congolese leaders publicly distanced themselves from Ntaganda's position in the National Army. So, around this time, in the early 2012, Ntaganda and loyal former CNDP officers deserted the Congolese army. They formed a new rebel group called the March 23 movement, claiming the government had failed to implement the 2009 peace agreement. Within months, the M23's forces swept across eastern Congo and captured the provisional capital, Goma. This was in November 2012, but power within the movement began to shift. During this time, tension between Ntaganda and Sultani Makenga escalated. When Ntaganda attempted to have Makenga arrested, the rebellion split. Fighting followed, and Makenga's forces pushed Ntaganda's fighters south toward the border. By earlier 2013, Bosco Ntaganda was in retreat, and then, in a move that shocked observers, he walked into the United States Embassy in Kigali and asked to be arrested. For Ntaganda, staying on the run had become far more dangerous than facing trial. After handing himself at the United States Embassy, he was then transferred to the Netherlands. The International Criminal Court had issued warrants for his arrest in 2006 and 2012. After a trial that began in November 2015, Ntaganda was found guilty on 18 charges, becoming only the first person ever to be convicted of war crimes by the ICC. The charges included murder as a crime against humanity, intentionally directing attacks against civilians as a war crime, and sexual slavery as a crime against humanity. In November of 2019, Ntaganda was sentenced to 30 years in prison, one of the heaviest sentences ever handed down by the ICC. For decades, Bosco Ntaganda had survived by switching sides, exploiting conflict, and positioning himself as indispensable. In the end, none of it protected him. The man, once known as Terminator, had finally run out of places to hide. Do not forget to like and share the video if you enjoyed it. Thank you all for tuning in.